Welcome back to Up in the Air. I'm Meredith Fish.
And I'm Hunter Williams.
This week we have finally had the first taste of spring. Earlier this week, State College even reached the upper 70s.
Even with the rain, it has been a nice change of pace from the usual bitter cold.
I agree, but moving on to tonight's show, we have a lot to cover.
We have our last soybean meal and natural gas update, a segment on the changing field of weather communications, and much more.
For now, this is Update in the Air.
In the midst of severe drought in California, citizens of the Golden State are now looking to their west to satisfy the state's water needs. San Diego County, the second largest county in California, is moving forward with a $1 billion plan to open a desalination plant. The plant, currently under construction, would turn the Pacific Ocean into a source of drinkable water for the county and is on pace to open by early November. Much smaller desalination plants are already in operation across several California towns, and plans are also in progress to build a plant in Huntington Beach, which would supply water for Orange County. The plant is set to open in San Diego County and will produce 50 million gallons of drinking water per day, making it the largest such plant in the Western Hemisphere. Many Californians, however, are in opposition to the construction of the San Diego County plant, as water bills in the area already average about $75 a month and are expected to rise by another $5 as a result of the plant. Many also express environmental concerns about such plants, as they use massive amounts of electricity and can also be harmful to sea life.
According to a recent article published by the University of Washington, a warm blob in the Pacific Ocean, about 1 to 4 degrees Celsius above normal, is causing the current oddness we have seen in the weather, including the dry conditions along the west coast, the cold and snowy along the east coast, and even the hungry seals washing up on the California beaches. The blob was found in fall 2013 and early 2014, and now it extends 1,000 miles off the coast from Mexico to Alaska. The study also found that this warm blob of warm water relates to the persistent high-pressure ridge, but is also evaluating its effects on marine life and its influence inland, like the drought conditions in California, Oregon, and Washington. The important question, though, that they have yet to answer is whether this is natural variability or a change in the behavior of the Pacific Ocean decadal variability.
According to a recent study by the U.S. Geological Survey, the future of earthquake warnings could lie in smartphone technology. Although less accurate than scientific-grade sensors, smartphones contain GPS receivers capable of detecting ground movement caused by large earthquakes. This technology could be especially beneficial for areas that lack the more expensive and conventional earthquake early warning systems. The study included a feasibility test for this method of earthquake early warning using a hypothetical magnitude 7 quake and real data from the 2011 magnitude 9 Japan earthquake. The test showed that even if fewer than 5,000 phones in a large metropolitan area responded, the earthquake could still be detected and analyzed fast enough to send out a warning to other locations before the shaking begins. The future of this technology remains unclear, but members of the study are excited about the potential smartphones have to provide affordable earthquake early warning systems.
A recent study published in the journal Science by the University of Edinburgh is the first to show that highly acidic oceans were to blame for the extinction of 90% of marine species and more than 2/3 of land animals during an event which occurred 252 million years ago. Due to volcanic eruptions, the Earth's oceans absorbed huge amounts of carbon dioxide and changed the chemical composition of oceans by making them more acidic. These findings will help scientists understand the threat posed to marine life by modern-day ocean acidification. The researchers say that ocean acidification was the driving force behind the deadliest phase of extinction.
Despite the recent headline-making tornadoes in Illinois, this tornado season is off to a below-average start. In fact, this year's tornado count is 59% below average for this point during the year, and many are blaming this slow start on the cold conditions that have been in place for much of the recent months. January, for example, saw 25 confirmed tornadoes compared to an average of 40. This trend continued in February, which only saw 2 tornadoes compared to the average of 36, and into March as well, where there were only 12 confirmed tornadoes compared to the typical 78. April 9th alone, however, produced 17 confirmed tornadoes.
An article published in the Journal of ACS Sustainable Chemistry and Engineering reported a way to turn CD and DVD discs into a material that could capture carbon dioxide. Optical discs have the 2 main characteristics required to capture carbon dioxide, including the high surface areas and large volumes of fine pore. Besides absorbing carbon dioxide, these discs were also able to absorb hydrogen gas and benzene, a carcinogenic compound used in industrial processes. Turning waste into something useful has been a growing research area, especially within the Earth's increasing population. But that's all for this week's Update in the Air. Up in the Air will be back in a moment with more.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Update in the Air.
Penn State's Weather Risk Management class will give us the last update on the natural gas and soybean market.
This week, Steve Fundero and DJ Bennett will give us the current update into these market commodities.
Hello everyone, I am DJ Bennett, and this is my pal Steve Fundaro.
What's up everyone? I hope everyone is doing great today. We are special guests here this week to discuss the current state of two energy and agricultural markets. These markets we'll be giving insight to today are natural gas and soybean meal futures. Now to start things off, we must say trading commodities is no simple task.
You got that right, Steve. We are not experts by any means. Lots of big data and information is out there for traders in those markets to react to. We know that one key piece of information is the weather. Today we will be discussing how the weather affects these markets and the current state of each market. Currently, these volatile markets are both near their lowest trading prices in the last 6 months. Steve is here for us to discuss the natural gas market. Take it away, Steve.
Just like any commodity, the prices simply depend on supply and demand. The most recent EIA, or the U.S. Energy Information Administration report, boasted an injection of 15 BCF, simply meaning there was a lot of natural gas staying in the ground. In addition to all this supply, temperatures across the U.S. favored on the milder side, leaving very minimum heating demands, thus allowing the prices of natural gas to only go in one direction, down. After the EIA storage report was released last Thursday morning, all of us held onto our hats as we enjoyed the ride down to where prices fell to 2.521 on the 13th. Now, at this point in the season, the weather does not play as strong of a role in controlling prices as supply does. However, it still shines its significance. The past 7 days have been hanging around above normal temperatures for most of the U.S., creating smaller heating demand, and with smaller heating demand, prices trend on the lower side. The next 7 days are looking to obtain temperatures around normal for this time of the season, and with the 3-month outlook trending around normal to above normal for most of the U.S., the amount of heating demand is slowly dwindling. So strap in, keep your head, hands, arms, legs, and feet inside the ride at all times, and enjoy this roller coaster we call the natural gas market. Now I'm going to pass things off to DJ for insight into the soybean meal market portion of our segment.
For insight into soybean meal futures, there are two main producing areas in South America that we look to. They are Argentina and Brazil. Brazil, being the more northern country, is currently nearing the end of their harvest season, while Argentina is hitting their stride, although they are a little behind compared year over year. For the month of April in Brazil, they are finishing their soybean harvest and loading up long lines of trucks to head to the ports along the coast. Weather does not play much of a role during this time, but heavy rains can disrupt the transportation of soybean meal to the ports. It is important to take a look at not only the weather for these two areas, but also the weather for the port regions as well. Looking at the forecast for the next week, there is right around average precipitation for both Argentina and Brazil, while the coastlines look dry, which is a great sign for getting the meal to the port from Brazil. Taking a look at temperatures, we see very little extremes occurring in each area, although the warm outlook coupled with average precipitation in Argentina will not help Argentina overcome their slow start to the harvest season. Last Thursday, the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates report, commonly referred to as the WASDE report, was released. The market will typically respond to this report, but the report was right in line with market expectations, so no drastic movement in the market was seen. U.S. stock reduced by 15 million metric tons, while global stocks remained unchanged. The U.S. basis is dropping like normal for this time of year, so that leads to a bearish outlook in the market. Crush margins are also trending lower, but still right about average, which is another bearish indicator. In other news, white flies are becoming a problem for soybean producers in Bahia, a main soybean producing area in Brazil. Yields are still well above their 3-year average in this area, but yields could have been even better were it not for an increase in the population of white flies. These tiny insects can cause an estimated loss of 2 bushels, even with integrated pest management practices. Taking a look at the current soybean meal future prices, we see that the May 2015 futures market opened Monday at $308.80. We haven't seen prices this low since October 2014. The trend spotter says sell as prices continue to fall with a bearish market outlook.
Well, folks, there you have it. Thank you for joining us here for the weekly update on Up in the Air on the natural gas and soybean meal futures market.
We hope you have enjoyed our market update and have learned something about the energy and agricultural industries. For Up in the Air, I'm DJ Bennett.
And I'm Steve Fundero. You stay classy, stay college.
TRM's unforeseen longevity has provided more robust information on weather and climate patterns that can only be seen after years of observations. This nearly 2 decades of data lets scientists see variations in rainfall from year to year, how El Niño affects rain patterns worldwide, and the anatomy and life cycle of major storms like hurricanes.
It's also proven to be an extremely useful satellite for understanding hurricanes, partly because its orbit stays within the tropics, so you get much more frequent observations. And it's just provided a wealth of rainfall information over its relatively short time period that in many ways surpasses all of the information we had prior to that.
Thanks for tuning back in.
Amanda Reynolds is standing by at our climate wall to give us the 8 to 14 day outlook.
Take it away, Amanda.
Thanks, Meredith and Hunter. Again, I'm student meteorologist Amanda Reynolds here with your climate outlook. We begin by taking a look at our 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. Again, a similar story to what we've seen most of the winter. Much of the eastern United States is expected to be below or well below normal temperatures over the next week to 2 weeks. Again, State College is definitely part of that, although the positive spin to this is temperatures around this time in April are typically in the lower 60s. So while temperatures are expected to be below normal, those temperatures will be in the lower to mid 50s, so not the unseasonably cool temperatures that we've come to expect over the course of this winter. Areas in Florida are expected to be above normal temperatures. Similar story to what we have been seeing again for most of the winter, well above average temperatures for much of the West, and that will not really provide any relief as far as the drought that they have been experiencing. We'll have more on that in just a moment. But your precipitation outlook for much of the eastern United States, we are expecting above normal precipitation with the highest probability of above normal precipitation down in the extreme southeast parts of the U.S., Florida, parts of South Carolina, and Georgia. While areas to the west are expecting above normal precipitation, so that will be some relief, although the temperatures will not be cooling down at all. This area of probability above normal precipitation will definitely bring some much needed rainfall to much of these areas. And again, parts of the northern plains are expected to be below average precipitation. This is our drought monitor for the entire United States. And again, we talked about the drought in the extreme western parts of the U.S., parts of Nevada and California are under extreme drought and have been for much of this winter, dating back all the way to November 2014. Other areas that have been impacted severely is parts of Oklahoma and Texas are also in the extreme category, although across much of the West, there is drought being reported. Closer to home here in Pennsylvania, although it doesn't seem like it, we actually are in a bit of a dry spell. Areas, especially the northeast part of the state, including State College and down into the south central parts of the state, we are experiencing unusually dry conditions. While that above normal precipitation that is expected over the next week to 2 weeks will definitely remedy some of that, we will see where we end up in the next few weeks. But for now, back to you, Hunter and Meredith.
Thanks, Amanda.
As always, thanks for joining us this week, and thank you to the Penn State students for contributing to the show.
Tune in next week to catch another episode, but for now, I'm Hunter Williams.
And I'm Meredith Fish. See you next time, up in the air.